would you say are three, just from based on your experience, what are three indispensable qualities that you think someone working in radio has got to have?
Well, first off, you have to have tough skin. There's no pleasing everybody. And it took me a long time to figure that out. I started, I was 19, and it's like, fuck, like, can you tell a 19-year-old anything without them getting pissed off? It's like, yeah. So, you read things online on social media, and it still happens today. I read comments and it's just like, fuck you, like, shut up. It's like you get pissed, but you have to really take a step back and you have to be able to be like, well, it's not personal. They're not attacking you, just because they don't like something that you're playing doesn't mean that they're attacking you. And it is a struggle, but you have to be able to separate the two, and you have to have tough skin. You have to be able to say, like, well, I have a vision of what I'm going to do. And, if it's going to work, like, I got to stick to what I think is going to work. And you can't let other people really start to influence you with, all the bullshit that they say. Cause there's always going to be people that hate, but at the same time, there's plenty of people that, that love what you're doing. And at the end of the day, those are the only two voices that you hear. You don't hear from everybody in the middle who doesn't say anything, because they're fine. So take that big group and the group that really loves what you're doing, and it completely outweighs all of that. So all the negative is it's such a small percentage, but it's what you see. So, you got to have tough skin. The one thing that I will tell anybody in radio, if you want to make it in radio, you have to be willing to move. You have to be. It is so rare to find somebody who starts somewhere and has their entire career at one station. It is incredibly rare, especially today with the way that, radio stations are set up now, where, you'll have somebody who lives in Detroit, does 2 shows on 2 different stations, and also records for 3 different markets. So the competition is such that, you need to go where the job is. And if you want to move up, it's either move somewhere where you can get that position, or sit, wait, and hope that whoever has the job that you want dies. It's like, what else are you going to do? Like, they have the job that you want. They're not going to give it up. Like, so you got to be willing to move. I've now lived in 3 cities for radio. I hope that I don't move again anytime soon. I'm happy with where I am right now. But that's the reality of it. So you got to be willing to move, and, if you're not, then the choices are limited, and that's how it's always going to be.
Do you see yourself moving up, higher into, positions and, farther from what position you're in now?
I hope so. Yeah, I hope so at some point. Right now, I'm good doing what I'm doing. I'm perfectly happy just, being a program director and just, having say over my stations. It's funny too, the way that it constantly goes. So, when I started as an intern and was working my way up, it's like, okay, well, I want to be on air. And, it's like, that was the goal. And then, I finally got a shift, and then it's like, okay, well, now I want to be a music director. And, as I was working towards that, the music director at the time was my boss, Jay. And he would constantly just, he would see how frustrated our program director was all the time. He was like, you know what? It's like, I never want to be a program director. It's so much stress. And then he became a program director. And I was like, okay. And so, so I start doing the music stuff, and I saw how stressed out he was all the time. And I was like, God, man, I don't want to be a program director. And then I moved to Scranton to be a program director. So like, just because, it's like, there were so many things, it's like, I don't know if I want to do that. Like, it seems stressful, or it seems like a lot of work. Like, I like what I'm doing. It's just the next step, So if that step is available, like, you're more than likely going to take it. So, like right now, like, I enjoy what I'm doing, would I want to take a step up? Sure. There's a couple of different things that, that I kind of have long-term plans for, but that's all down the line. Like right now I can kind of enjoy the ride, and, and just keep doing what I enjoy, and pick up the information that I need to be better at those jobs down the line.
Right. Gotcha.
And what's the third indispensable quality? Tough skin, be willing to relocate, and what?
I think everybody in radio they have a switch inside that they can turn on and off, and it's that extrovert introvert switch. So part of the gig is, nobody's going to listen to you if you cut the mic on and it's like, God, another fucking 21 Pilot song, whatever. Like, you need to be excited, and you need to be positive. Every song that you're playing is the best song that you've ever heard. Like, you need to be uplifting. You need to be entertaining. Like, that's your job, is to be an entertainer when you're a DJ. So, you could be having a terrible day, and it's like, put that fucking smile on, like, do your show now.
Do you want to know how I got these scars?
Pretty much. You really need to be able to do that, but also at the same time, being able to turn that on and off can get dangerous. You don't want to fall into the kind of sense of, like, that fake happiness, so I think not a lot of people talk about, mental health when it comes to this industry, so to speak, music in general for starters, but, kind of breaking it down even further,
entertainment.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of all the same, for everyone. We can relate to that, playing on stage, there's some days, I'm sure, John or myself or, anyone that's, does entertainment, like you said, it's like, you're in the back room, you're like, fucking hate this place, hate you, fucking hate you. Then you come out, you're like, hey, what's up? How you doing?
Yep. Hey, you got to be an entertainer. And, when it comes to that, I'd have to go and look, but I know it hasn't been just one. I know there's been at least 2 different articles where it says, a radio broadcaster is one of the highest positions to likely be a sociopath. It's like, well, yeah, that kind of fucking makes sense when you think about what the job is. So, you need to be able to handle turning it on and off, and you need to be able to really focus on, like, is what I'm doing the right thing and the healthy thing. Just because you have the ability to turn that happiness on and turn that excitement on, should you always do that? Or, if you're starting to lose touch with, being able to be outgoing or be able to take those moments to yourself and be, kind of, just introverted, quiet, and kind of disconnect. Like, I see a lot of people struggle with it, and they fall into that, their entire life is consumed about, like, this is my personality and this is who I am. It's like, well, no, it's partially your job is what it is. Like, you're an entertainer while you're on the air. You're a personality while you're on the air. But that doesn't need to be who you are in real life either. Sure, you want some of that, but also at the same time, like, you got to be able to turn it on and off. Otherwise you're always working and you're just going to get burnt out.
Okay. Who do you look up to, or who's an example of someone who works in radio that has that switch and has a really, really good work-life balance, that their on-air personality is who they are because they're just a genuine human being that can be entertaining. It's not a persona. You know what I'm saying?
I think the best example that I can currently give is my current boss here in Louisville, Ben Davis. So he's our operations manager here, and he also is half of the morning show for our Top 40 station. And he's been doing mornings for this show for years and years and years. I think close to about 15 years he's been doing this show. And it's interesting to see the personality on air versus the operations manager boss off air. And they are kind of almost two different people, but when you kind of blend it all together, it is who he just normally is. And you get him outside of the office and, you're just at the bar having a drink or something, and you see both sides of it. And you can tell that, it's like, okay, well, the personality it's a little over the top because it's a Top 40 morning show, but also those qualities, transfer over to, being a boss as well. So it's that blend that you really see. And, he does a good job of balancing between all of that. And again, like, you see who he really is outside of the office, and it's like, yeah, it all makes sense, and he seems stable. So
who is the title of this show is Who Let You In Here? And the idea being, everyone's got to get their foot in the door somehow, and usually it's because they know someone. Not saying that everything's about connections, but everything really is about relationships and building quality relationships with people. So, to honor the title, Who Let You In Here? Who's the person that you would like to shout out that really helped you go to the next level in your career as a radio person?
It was Jay Hudson from day one. So Jay was hosting nights at 89X. He was music director as well. And, I was, kind of growing up, like I listened to the station, all the time. It was the music that I really enjoyed. And, I would listen to the show at night, and, I'd call up for the People's Choice to vote for bands. I'd call for the top 9 to, be like, oh, like, I think this song should be number 1, and, all that.
You were a fan first.
Yeah, I 100% was, and it was that, that relationship that I built as being somebody who was calling in, who was interested in the music, and, was, entertained by radio, that, that's why, Jay called me to say, hey, can you come help me in the studio? And from there, it was like, okay, like, you're here, you're answering calls. Why don't you do this as well? And then why don't you do this? And, really kind of taking me under his wing and teaching me everything along the way. And, so that's how it was from the start. And to be completely honest with you, up until I moved here, so March of last year, there has not been anything in radio that Jay did not help me with. He got me my start as an intern. He taught me everything that I learned in Detroit. He gave me my first job at 89X, actually fucking getting paid. He put me on the air, taught me how to do an on-air shift. When I moved to Scranton, he was the one that recommended me for that job. You know, I did a brief stint with AOL Radio. He's the one that got me that job. You know, so he did everything to make my career what it is. And I truly owe him everything. And I keep in touch with him, and I talk to him all the time. I still ask him for advice, and, you know, I check in to see how he's doing with all of his stuff. And, you know, I feel like, you know, that's a relationship that, you know, when it comes to a career, like, it doesn't get any better than that. You know, like, you know,
He's not just somebody that, like, just, you know, gave you a break or helped you out one time. He's like a mentor to you.
100%. Yeah.
That's probably one of the best relationships to ever have in business, or something that you do that you love.
Yeah. And you know, and he still, you know, will give me advice on things. And, you know, like I said, we still talk about, you know, things going on in radio. Like, he's doing his thing at Sirius. So, I mean, it's a little different, but, you know, that different perspective can help me sometimes. So, you know, like, he's the one that, you know, like, he's the reason I'm here. You know, I didn't want to do radio really until he kind of pushed me into it. He's like, well, you could do this and you could do this. Like, there's more to radio than what you're thinking, you know? And that's what got me to where I am. And, you know, being able to have him in my corner and, you know, build relationships from there, you know, with different record people or different radio people, you know, like, that helped me when I got to Scranton and I was on my own as a first-time program director. And, you know, then from there, it's like, you know, the relationships that I had with, you know, different record people and actually another program director in a different city is what got me the job here. So, you know, I do like to say, like, you know, talent plays a big part in it. Like, if you can't do the job, then nobody's going to hire you. Like, you have to be able to do the job. But it's a lot about who you know. It's always going to help. You know, like, if you have 20 people that are saying, hey, you should hire this person, versus nobody, who do you think they're going to hire? You know?
Yeah,
right.
It's, I think that, it kind of goes, you know, again, in any entertainment, it's, you know, it's kind of down to who you know. And or the one guy that used to run the venue used to tell me, he was like, "Hey, it's who you know and who you blow," which
I mean,
messed up, but
it's who you know. Definitely who you know.
Definitely who you know. Definitely who you know. So yeah, and that's why we wanted to do this whole podcast in the first place. Is we have colleagues, we have peers, and we want to pick their brain and say, you know, like, hey, this is who we know. Maybe listening to some of these people that we know can help some people in our audience take the next step in their career, whether it is in radio, whether it is in music, or any industry. Just the way we want to help people understand how people that are doing something think. You know, so I just think that everything that you're offering is great. To that point, all right, you've had a mentor. Pay it forward a little bit. What advice would you give to somebody who is interested in a career in radio?
Well, I mean, I think it kind of, you know, comes down to, you know, I mean, there's all the things that we talked about with, you know, the different, you know, traits that somebody should have if they really want to, you know, be able to make it. I mean, you know, some of those things, like, yeah, you know, if you check all of those boxes, you know, it comes down to passion. You know, especially when it comes to radio and music in general, you do it because you love it. You don't do it because it's a job. You know, you want to have that sense of, you know, like, you know, you're enjoying what you do, and you can tell the difference. And, you know, I was fortunate enough. We have part of our our company with Alpha Media, part of what they do is they take all of the program directors and we go out to our main headquarters in Portland. Not going to do it this year, obviously. Fucking travel. But last year we did this, and we had a speaker that came in, and his name is Greg Bell, and he has a book that he wrote. It's called Watering the Bamboo, and I'd have to look back and see what the actual like species of the bamboo is, but there's a certain species of bamboo that it takes about 2 years before it sprouts, before you see anything. Like you can water it every day and you will not see anything. And it just takes so long before you see it. But once you see it, fucking skyrockets and it'll grow feet in a matter of days. So, his whole book is watering the bamboo. It's, putting in the work when you don't see the effort. And, people that are passionate about what they do are going to keep watering the bamboo. They're still going to have that energy and they're still going to be positive and they know the results are going to come. So if you don't have the passion, then why are you here? Why are you sitting on the sidelines watching everybody else bust their ass and you're just saying, yeah, I'll just be here. I'm fine doing whatever. Like you know those people. Everybody knows those people, whether it's, if it's people that you work with or just people in your life. You have people that are super passionate and super driven, but also you have people that have no passion. They have no work ethic. And then tip the scales too. You have people that have no passion, but they have so much skill and they have so much potential. And then you have people that have no skill, but they want to learn everything. And so you take all of these people and you kind of put them into that box where they range, and you can see who actually wants it, who actually, is there because they love it. And this is very much a career that if you don't love the music, if you don't love the industry, it's not just a job that you can do. Like you're not going to be able to make it. So that's what you have to look for, is you have to look for passion. The skill, you can teach that to somebody. You can teach somebody how to, use the program to schedule music. You can teach somebody how to be able to talk better on a mic. These are all things that you can learn, but you can't learn passion.
Yeah, that's pretty solid though. That's a good interpretation of all that from you.
Thank you. And thank you to Greg Bell, who I stole some of that from.
Water the bamboo. I like that.
Water the bamboo. Actually, holy shit. Hold on.
Didn't you? I thought, was it you that told me about that, John?
Water the bamboo.
Boom.
Yeah, somebody told me this, maybe it was my friend Jason. Maybe like last year told me. Somebody brought this up to me when I was like severely, drunk one night, just hanging out at the lake, and somebody started talking about that, and I had no clue what they were talking about. But now they kind of bring it up, and it makes all sense now. So
yeah,
thanks for that.
So oddly enough, I have my laptop bag with me, and I have the book in there because we got copies of the book when we did that. And I've just kept the book. I've just kept it in that bag for whenever I need it for moments like this where I'm actually talking about watering the bamboo. So yeah, it's a good read, and it applies to all different careers, but mainly when it comes to radio, I find it really kind of eye-opening, so to speak.
What bad advice do you hear people giving about being in radio?
I mean, the most common one is, it's a dying format. Why do you want to be in radio? There's Spotify, there's Apple Music, there's streaming. Like, people have music on their phones. Like, what the fuck do you do with radio? Well, radio's free for starters. Radio's local for a second. Like, radio's not going to go away. Radio's been around for a very fucking long time. It just changes. Like, did you think that radio would have apps on your phone? Do you think radio would be streaming over the internet? Nobody thought this when it was starting out. It's like any industry. You change, you adapt. It's not a dying, medium. But that's what a lot of people will say. Like, we don't need radio. It's like, really? Like, if I told you, like, okay, you're in the market for a new car. You want to know about safety. You want to know about, whatever, what color it is, what make, whatever. If I told you that it didn't have a radio, you'd stop for a second. Like, what?
John didn't have a radio in his car. He's a fucking musician. Who doesn't have a radio in their car?
Disappointed, John.
No, it was
terrible.
It was great. My whole life is filled with noise, and driving in silence is very peaceful to me.
Oh, it's like the one time I can't have silence.
It's
like I need to listen to something.
So yeah, no, I concur. I don't think it's a dying format at all, and I think especially since you talked a bunch about how serving your audience is your focus. And being local, how who knows better how to serve the Louisville area than the radio station in Louisville.
Yep.
Spotify can target some playlists to people in Louisville, but it's not telling them about the news in the area. It's not telling them about how traffic's doing while they're listening to music. You know what I mean? So yeah, radio serves a purpose, and you're right, adapting is huge. The thing I enjoy about the whole fallout with iHeartMedia and everything and the whole return to local is that there's a lot more authority on the local level now to make decisions and to take some calculated risks and make some necessary sacrifices here and there in order to maybe get outside of a comfort zone and try new things that can help radio, capture the attention of more people or retain the attention of people and whatnot. So no, I think it's great.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see radio going anywhere personally. So.
Neither do I. I fucking hope it doesn't.
Yeah, you're kind of invested in it, right?
A little bit, yeah. I'm not really trained for anything else.
Steve, do you have any other questions for Phil before we start to wrap up here?
I do actually. One thing I was just curious about, and I usually try to ask this anybody that I meet that works in the radio industry. Do you come up with people that were like more of the old school method, maybe from like 80s or early 90s even, you had those the stereotypical radio disc jockeys that were had the voice, hey, this is Ratman on the radio, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of a dying thing. I've noticed this. It's not a radio personality anymore, like at least not from what I heard. And traveling around the country and stuff, playing shows and stuff, what do you do majority of the time when you're driving from one show to the next? You're listening to music or the radio or something like that. So you tune into a lot of different states or cities, and I just don't really come across that anymore. Is that something that you feel that's like a dying thing, or you don't come across anymore?
Yeah, it's definitely a dying thing. That over the top kind of radio personality, hey, coming at you with another block coming up in 2 songs time. Like that's going away because more and more especially with how things are with social media and just the ease of access to to being in different places and connecting with an audience, people are looking for people that just have a realness about them. So you see a lot of shows that end up being successful are people that a listener relates to, that they can see like that's somebody that I could just be sitting having a beer in my backyard with. It's like they want somebody that is authentic. So that fake kind of over the top entertainer that used to be really prevalent isn't so much anymore, because now so many people relate to the different, DJs that are on the air, because they're part of the community. They're part of, social groups. Like, it's like, you can go out and be somewhere and people will be like, oh yeah, like I just like let's hang, like let's talk and stuff. Like, there's less of that barrier that's there between, be like, oh, like, you're just a listener, you stay over there, like I will be over here doing my radio DJ thing. Like, so that authenticity and that realness, starts to become way more important. So you see more people that are just generally themselves. There's that connection of having somebody that you're listening to that is just real. You're more likely to listen to them than if they were just being corny and all of that. Like, you can still be entertained by something that, is told by somebody who's just authentic and connects with you. So it's definitely going away. I think I'd like to see more personalities be able to really just be themselves and express themselves. It's still toned down a little bit. A lot of times it's, you're reading a liner card of, they're like, oh yeah, like you can get this deal at this place for, half off and blah, blah, and here's this song. Like, you don't get to showcase your personality as much and who you actually are. So, I think, I think more places are starting to accept that a little bit more, and they're starting to come around to that realization that, people just want a connection with somebody. That's a huge part of what radio is in general. So when you have a real and genuine connection with somebody that you take as like, this is somebody that I can trust, then it makes a world of difference.
Okay. And, another question I do have for you though, just, you being in radio, obviously you deal with, the local more. You guys said that, you're trying to, branch into that. Where, after this coronavirus kind of, clears up, or, if it does, let's hope it does. Where do you guys see yourself moving in a direction of, kind of keeping that? Or do you think like maybe you'll go back to where it was before, where you weren't so much into that?
I think it's tough to tell right now. Well, at least I'll start with on a national level, because, this is typically what I see happen is, it starts at a national level and it kind of trickles down. But nationally, what I'm seeing, a lot, since all these bands are grounded and they can't tour and they can't do any of these things, you're seeing a lot more of the, like Zoom performances where, they'll do the acoustic thing for some winners or, something like that. But more recently, I've seen full-on produced shows that bands are doing, and they're basically in an empty venue of some sort, or an empty room of some sort, and
Like a sound,
they have,
like on a soundstage type deal.
Yeah. So they're doing that, but they're selling tickets for that, and there's no capacity to it because it's online. So that's how they're starting to make their money. So I think a lot of bands are still going to do this after the pandemic ends. They're going to go back to touring, just because of that connection. You can't beat that connection. But I think a lot of that streaming stuff is going to become a lot more common. So with the local scene, I think that you'll see a lot of these bands, playing shows, trying to get back, but you'll see people that want to be out. You know, they miss being out places. You know, they've been stuck inside. They haven't been able to see people. They haven't been able to be at, you know, gatherings of more than 10 or 50 people. Like they want to be out and they want to do that. So I think that, you know, and more so, I hope that more people will go out and they will just discover some of these bands. They're not going to be specifically going out because it's like, oh, I'm friends with, you know, with these guys, or, you know, I know this band and, you know, they're playing tonight. Like, I think people are just going to go out somewhere.
Like before the internet.
Yeah.
You actually went to a show and you're like, hey, I'm just, you know, I'm up here to see my friend's band. But then, you know, you see the opening act or the, you know, another band happening in the bill. And you're like, man, this band's awesome. You know, you actually, you know, you maybe go up to their table and buy a shirt or a CD or something.
Yeah.
You know, I kind of agree on that. I think going, well, I mean, what I like to see come out of this is that people are kind of taking a step back and not just relying on sitting at home on the computer all day and listening to music. And, you know, and I feel like even people out of our generation is kind of, you know, faltered into that. They got lazy, you know, and they, you know, stopped going to shows, you know,
Yeah.
they don't go to shows as much. And, you know, it's kind of a dying thing. You know, they'd rather, you know, just download something off Spotify or look up what, you know, the top 10, you know, alternative artists for the week. You know,
yeah. And, you know, and to be perfectly honest, like, you know, I know that I'm guilty of that. Like, you know, there have been plenty of times. I mean, just being in radio and, you know, having been to, you know, to so many shows, you know, you fall into that pattern of, it's like, well, like, I don't want to go to another show right now. Like you know, like I saw them last time, like, you know, and you fall into that. And I think something like this with, you know, with the pandemic, where it's like, you can't fucking leave. Like, do not go outside. Do not gather with people. It's like, oh, okay. All right. Well, once this is over, I'm going to fucking gather with people, you know? So, like, you know, so I think that, you know, and again, it might be more of a hope, but even if you don't know somebody who's playing, you know, I think people might just, you know, they're just going to stumble into venues and be like, $10 for a cover? Sure. Like, let's see what's going on. You know, I really hope that more of that happens. And I think, especially with, you know, with the local scenes, you know, when you can get that community involvement, you know, there's going to be that push that people are going to be like, well, we need to support, you know, this local venue. We need to support this local bar or this local restaurant, because you see the effects of what's happening with all of these places shutting down. You know, you see chains shutting down. Like, just read, like, Dunkin' Donuts is shutting down like 800 stores in the US, and California Pizza Kitchen just filed for bankruptcy. Like, you're seeing huge chains that are going under. How do you think that, you know, a local mom and pop shop is doing right now? Like, they're hurting. So, you know, once this all ends, I think a lot of people are going to be like, well, I love this restaurant, or I love this venue, or I love this bar. Like I don't want to see this go. And I think that they're just going to support, and they're going to go out. And I think that that's where, you know, local bands can really kind of capitalize on the whole, like, stay local movement. So, and again, I think it's, you know, right now, to me, it just kind of feels like a hope, but, you know, it'd be nice to see.
Right on. Right on. Define success.
I mean, I think success is just, you know, are you happy? I don't think there's really much more to it. I mean, are you happy with where you are? Are you happy with, yourself, with how you feel? Are you happy with, the people that are around you? I think that's what you should really gauge success as. I don't think it comes down to, any awards or how much you're making or, what your title is or anything like that. I mean, it's all kind of arbitrary. I mean, especially when it comes to radio. I mean, like I said, I mean, you can't make everybody happy. So, if success is, everybody loves you, you're never going to have it. It's not possible. You know, there's people that are just never going to get on board with, liking Imagine Dragons or 21 Pilots, or some people are just not going to like you just because of how you fucking sound. They're like, he sounds too nasally. I don't like him. Fucking had somebody say that to me. Like, it's like, but, that's not what you base your success off of. You base it off of how happy are you? Like if you're good where you are, like if you're happy doing what you're doing and you don't feel the need to do more, then who's to say that you're not successful?
Who's to say? Exactly.
Who's to say? I mean,
nailed it.
I mean, and you see it all the time. It's like, you can have all the money in the world, but you can be miserable. Does that make you a success?
Yes.
No.
No.
Phil, what's next for you in regard to your growth as an individual?
It's a good question. I think more of it is less career driven, more, just personal driven. I mean, fuck. It's a good question, John. I don't know. Honestly, I do think that, I think it's just about, growing as a person. Like, right now, it's like, like being married, it's like, I'm a good husband. Like also in my career, I'm good at what I do and all of that. And I think it's just, growing from there. It's, having a family and being more of, on that side of my life, being, more involved, and then also career driven, starting to, do more, like, especially with, how we talked about with, doing stuff with the top 40 station here. I've started, helping out with that, like kind of expanding, my views and pushing, what I've done in the past to, kind of grow in that department and just keep learning more. So, I think that's kind of the next step is, just keep getting more information and keep learning new things. And, the more that I know, the more dangerous I'm going to be. The further I'm going to get.
Gary, remain a student.
Yep. Always.
And finally, how can people find you, reach you, on social media and whatnot? And if there's anything that you'd like to promote or champion, you have the platform. The floor is yours.
Well, if anybody wants to follow me, all I do is really post pictures of my dog. So Twitter, Instagram, at PKonAir. You can find me on all of those. Yeah, just don't come at me with any negative shit, or else I'm not here for it. That's what a block button's for. I'm not fucking around. So you can find me there, and then if you want to listen to my stations out here with Alt 105.1 with, the alternative realm, or our Jack FM station, 102.3 Jack FM, give them a listen. You can stream them online or through smart speakers, however you want to do that. So, it all helps. If you don't live in the Louisville area, it doesn't go towards ratings, but digital numbers are just as important for us. So, I'm all about that. You can go and follow the stations too on social media. All of it helps. At the end of the day, I'm an entertainer, and I'm proud of my stations. And if you want to follow them and you find them entertaining, then great. If it's not for you, that's fine too. There's something else out there for you. But I like connecting with people no matter where they are. So if you want to connect, let's do it. Let's chat.
He's Phil. Do a shot every time he says, Kukawinski. All things radio in Louisville, Kentucky. Alt 105.1, 102.3 Jack FM as he finishes his iced tea. He also hosts a podcast. Why don't you shout out your podcast?
Oh yeah, I do a podcast with my wife. We do the Three Ring podcast. So the concept of the podcast is, so in every marriage there are 3 rings. There's the engagement ring, the wedding ring, and the suffering. So we built a podcast around this concept, and we have arguments that don't matter.
I heard you when you said that, the suffering. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, but so the entire podcast is it's arguments that don't matter at all. It's what's the best Justin Timberlake song?
What's like marriage?
what's the best kind of cookie? It's dumb things that people will argue about and you will take a stance on, but it doesn't matter in the grand scheme of life. Like it's not like a big thing. Like, it's not a huge topic. Like, like, are you for or against gay marriage? It's like, whoa, that's not what we're here for. Like we're here to bicker about what's the best Disney song. Like, let's settle down. But like everybody has an opinion about it, and that's what we do. And we bicker and argue about that. So,
That's good. And I also hear you volunteer to pet dogs. So
always.
Very good. Very good.
I will pet your dog if you will allow me. Always.
Phil, thank you so much for doing this with us, for taking the time, and just for being righteous and being you mentioned authenticity. You're an authentic guy. You've always been the same you. I know you've grown. I've seen you grow. I've watched your journey, but I
have a beard now, yeah.
Yeah, the beard. We're all a little beardy. Thanks, COVID. So, take care, and best to the fam. And thanks for spending the time with us. We really, really appreciate it.
Of course, I was happy to do it. I was happy and honored that you guys wanted me to be involved with it. So thank you very much.